Live.
Stand right here.
Just stop me and tell me to start over. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
That's the last one was for me. So I'm Jackie Rowe. I am the division manager at the Department of Family Services, Domestic Violence and Human Trafficking Division. And I want to welcome you all and thank you all for coming this afternoon for our, I guess it's this evening, right? For our third annual Father's Day Pledge Initiative program. I'm so excited about this evening's program. First, because we are celebrating fathers and father figures. And secondly, because we're all together. Well, not all of us. Some of you are watching us virtually, and we welcome you as well. Tonight we are celebrating fathers, father figures, and community leaders in Prince George's County. The other day I heard a startling statistic. It said that 19 million children in America did not have a father figure. And then Sunday, my pastor, he spoke about overflow. Okay. Of course, when he spoke about overflow, he was talking about it in a spiritual sense. But I want to talk to you this evening about overflow in the sense of fatherhood, fathers, father figures, community leaders, uncles, grandfathers, faith-based leaders, mentors, business owners, coaches, and neighbors. Your presence is critical to our youth and our community. Your overflow is a part of our community's fabric, our village. That's why we're here this evening to lift up our fathers in Prince George's County and thank them for their pouring of their overflow into our community, creating a community that's free of domestic violence. Before I take my seat, I'd like to thank Sheriff Hyde for his partnership in this wonderful venue, and the men of the Prince George's County Fathers and Commission, Prince George's County Commission on Fathers and Boys for their partnership. Lastly, I'd like to thank my team in the back. You guys raise your hands. Before you all leave this evening, give them an elbow. Thank you for all the hard work that they're doing in Prince George's County and for the rest. Don't shake the hands with them. Now it's my pleasure to invite the Director of the Department of Family Services, Ms. Elena Valenbutler, to the podium so she can give some brief remarks and introduce our Master of Ceremony. Enjoy the program and thank you for being here. Wait a minute, I said this is my boss.
So good evening, everyone. It is now, okay, so some of you don't know me and some of you know me. Some of you know how I am. So we can do better than that. We are here to celebrate men. We are here to celebrate fathers. We are here to celebrate uncles, coaches, mentors. I think we can do better for that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. And I know all of the men here also thank you. And so on behalf of the Department of Family Services, Prince George's County Executive, Angela also was, I welcome you to our Father Pledge this evening. As Jackie indicated, the one thing I'd like to talk about before we start is that this is a pivotal moment for us. Pivotal in that, as you know, the pandemic started in March of 2020, and so all events had to be canceled from that period forward. This is a wonderful moment for us as an agency as well as a community, because for Jackie and her team, for our department, this is the very first event for this particular division. So I want you to know how much it means to us to have you here and how much work that this team has put into this event. So I just want you to know genuinely we thank you for being here. I have the pleasure of introducing Lieutenant Colonel John Carr, who I just had the distinct pleasure of meeting for the very first time, and he will forever be imprinted on my mind and brain because he actually was able to pronounce my name correctly, which is something that's rare. So Lieutenant Carr is a proud father of 4 amazing children and a lifelong resident of Prince George's County. He grew up in Suitland, Maryland, and attended Bishop McNamara High School, and then he earned his Bachelor of Arts degree in Criminology and Criminal Justice at the University of Maryland. Furthering his education, he then received his Master's in Public Administration from Norwich University. Lieutenant Carr began his career at the Prince George's County Office of the Sheriff and has continued to rise through the ranks by remaining focused on serving and protecting those in his community. During his 20-year-plus law enforcement career, he has served in the Domestic Violence Intervention Division and by leading the apprehension of violent offenders as the commander of Warrants and Fugitive Division. His community-first principles have been the foundation that helped guide him to where he presently serves as a lieutenant colonel / assistant sheriff commander of the Bureau of Field Operations. In addition to his field-related experience, Lieutenant Carr has served as a certified instructor teaching the International Association of Chiefs of Police, leadership in police organizations, programs to other leaders throughout the state. Lieutenant Carr is affiliated with several professional associations to include the International Association of Chiefs of Police, the National Association of Black Law Enforcement Executives, the Noble Association for the Advancement of Colored People, and the National Tactical Officers Association. Lieutenant Carr is honored to serve on the Prince George's County Democratic Central Committee as the elected 27th at-large member, and currently serves on the Maryland Crime Victims Resource Center Board. I'm sure there are many additional accolades that we could tell you about Lieutenant Carr, but it's at this time I'd like for you to join me in welcoming him to our stage as our Master of Ceremony. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everybody. How are you today? Good. We're going to try this again. Good evening, everybody. How are you today? Good. We're going to keep this energy going all night long as we are here for an important cause to highlight the fathers in our community and really throughout the country and throughout the state to make sure that we can eradicate domestic violence. So I am privileged and I am very happy to be here with you tonight, and I want to make sure that we keep that energy. Thank you, Director Valenbutler, for your introduction. I appreciate you to be the Master of Ceremony here tonight. As we move forward, we have several awardees that we want to make sure that we highlight what they do here in the community, and we want to make sure that we can actually speak to everybody in the community and making sure that they are a part of this fight in what we want to do and make sure that our men and our fathers, uncles, brothers, will stand up in our community to eradicate domestic violence. So thank you again. I will get started with our first introduction of someone here in our community that really started her career in making sure that Prince George's County was safe. In 2010, let me back it up. Our now county executive was the state's attorney back in 2010, in which she was elected to be the county, the county state's attorney, in which she was the first woman to be elected into office in Prince George's County. As the top law enforcement officer, her key role was to make sure that she kept our public and our community safe. As she started working through the state's attorney's office, she realized that she wanted to move forward and move on, continuing her journey to assist and help the community, and ran in 2018 to be our county exec and coining the phrase, Prince George's County Pride. Our county executive, Angela Alsabrook, is a lifelong Prince George's County resident and is the first woman in Prince George's County to be its county exec. So without further ado, I would like to bring to you our first awardee, Prince George's County Executive, Angela Alsabrook.
Good evening and welcome, everyone. I want to thank you for making a point to attend this year's Father's Day Pledge Against Domestic Violence. I also want to thank the Department of Family Services Domestic Violence and Human Trafficking Division, the Eastern Province of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Social Action Committee, my brother's keeper of Prince George's County, and the Prince George's County Commission for Fathers, Men, and Boys. I also want to thank Prince George's Police Chief Malik Aziz, Sheriff Melvin High, and County Council Chair Calvin Hawkins for sharing their time to this important program. And I want to thank all of you, fathers and young men, that have joined us this evening. You are such a critical part of our community, and today we honor you and the impact that you have in Prince George's County. Every Father's Day is a time to celebrate the importance of fatherhood in our communities and throughout society. The Father's Day Pledge is an opportunity to go even deeper and focus on the influence men can have in building and maintaining healthy relationships. It's important because many of our relationships are scarred by the threat of violence. Every minute in the United States, 24 people quietly become victims of physical violence, rape, or stalking by an intimate partner. In 2020, 56 Marylanders lost their lives to domestic violence, 12 of which occurred in Prince George's County. An issue this pervasive is allowed to spread because of an unwillingness to talk about the harm that is being done. Victims will continue to suffer in silence if nobody speaks up before it's too late. But each of you here today have power to speak up and spread the message that domestic violence has no place in our community. Each of you have a say in creating a community that values and respects women and girls. So today, we approach domestic violence from a male perspective and empower men to create an open dialogue about nonviolent responses and healthy perceptions about masculinity and fatherhood. We are asking you to speak up with your voices, with your signatures, and with your actions. Our hope is that you can find your voice in the discussions that will be sparked from this evening's program. And most importantly, our hope is that you commit to using that voice to end domestic violence, not just in our community, but communities across our region and state. I want to thank each of you for participating in today's Father's Day Pledge. Your voice can make a difference in our efforts to end domestic violence in our county. Thank you again for stepping up and answering our call to action.
Thank you, Madam County Executive, for your kind words and recommendations. Next, I want to keep it going with our county council chairs. We talk about our community. We talk about what we do here in Prince George's County. The next person we have with remarks will be our county chair, Hawkins, who is the people's champion, someone who has been in the forefront of making sure that we can address issues in our county, in our community, has been a champion in making sure that we enforce and we assist our returning citizens, that they are able to get a job, that they are able to be successful, and then working with us economically to make sure that we're able to work with our business leaders, our nonprofit organizations. So as I bring up our county council chair, the people's champion, Mr. Hawkins.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. I want to thank the Department of Family Services, the Office of the Sheriff, our great leader, Sheriff Melvin Hyde, the Commission of Fathers, Men and Boys for hosting the third Father's Day Pledge Initiative. I appreciate my good friend, Deputy Sheriff, Deputy Lieutenant Sheriff, future Sheriff. I appreciate your kind words. It's an honor to join County Executive and also Brooks, Sheriff Hyde, and my good friend, Delegate Jazz Lewis, and each of you for this very important moment. Jackie Rome, you might continue to guide us over the years about the importance of what we're dealing with each and every day in our county. And Jackie Rome, you may not receive enough thank yous, but I will say thank you publicly for having the courage and the commitment to deal with this very important issue in our community. Sheriff Hyde, Delegate Lewis, and even County Executive Angela also Brooks. As public officials, we often speak about crime prevention, community involvement, stressing the need for more jobs, better schools, access to quality health care, nonprofit partnerships like the one we have in Capital Alpha Psi, and I want to show you much. I wore these just for you all, these slides. But I want to say I appreciate all that you do when we talk about these areas. But these are great strategies, but I believe County Executive also Brooks, Sheriff Hyde, and Delegate Jazz Lewis would agree with me when I say to be effective, we cannot stop there. We must face some of the very inconvenient truths about what's happening in our communities, right here in our own Prince George's County. So I'm pleased to see the issue of domestic violence at the forefront this evening. Domestic violence behavior can begin in grade school with teasing and bullying. It is reinforced in homes where parents fight and neighbors turn out the lights and pull down the shade. It is perpetuated by young people who think violence in dating is normal, and it is taught by a society that treats it as a private family matter to be dealt with behind closed doors. Domestic abuse is not, should not, and should not ever be a problem of one. It's a community problem, and a solution will not be found without complete community involvement. To have all of you here this evening to take the Father's Day pledge is encouraging, and I am especially excited to see so many men in the room, and especially young men. There's no government or nonprofit program that can fill the void created by the absence of the father. I know because I grew up in a single parent household with my mother. But all of us can serve as a role model through community service and civic engagement. Young people need to see us working in our communities, volunteering in our schools, attending parent conferences, active in the PTSA, and standing in the gap on behalf of all the children and families whose fathers are absent from their household. not just our own. Our involvement in these lives makes us a better community, and we can do what we need to do to make Prince George's County prouder each and every day by our action. The real difference sends a clear message that someone cares about their future when young men and young girls, young boys and young girls are looking for a dad that's absent, but they have role models like those of you in this room that stand in the gap. So again, thank you, Sheriff Hyde, for the number of years you've been committed to ensuring not what you do in your official capacity, but expanding what you do in your life to make our communities better. In closing, I just want to say, I had an opportunity in my younger days working for Kevin Chambers to watch Sheriff Hyde as he worked in the District of Columbia with the Metropolitan Police Department. I watched him as the county police chief out here in Prince George's County. And Sheriff Hyde, I can tell you, when we used to do the community walks with you, when you were the county police chief, to see the young boys and girls run up to you and grab your leg and just was grateful that you were in their communities, that said something about his leadership and commitment to our community. In closing, throughout my life, there have been exceptional men who have provided me with direction and inspiration to succeed. I have become who I am because of the presence of others who have poured into my life and continue to reap the benefits of those very important relationships today. Count Delegate Jazz Lewis, I remember you saying a time when one of your friends either got shot, robbed, or killed, and how upset you were. But there were some men in your life that encouraged you to continue with your educational pursuits and stay away from that life that you were prepared to go in because you were angered and upset. And as a result of those role models, look at you now. You're running the state. You're influencing state legislation that's making a difference in all our lives. And we are grateful for you, and you're the example that young people need as we move forward. So thank you very much. And lastly, what brings us here today is so important to our MC. Brother Carr, continue to be a light to so many people. When I see you out there doing what you do, you are definitely an example any man, young man, old man can follow because you're leading by example. And I appreciate all you do in your leadership and how you lead from the front. So Jackie Brown, thank you for this opportunity on behalf of the Prince George's County. Madam Director, we are grateful to you and all of you for being here. And Captain outside, although I'm gonna make a side fire, you all lead the way everywhere I go. And I appreciate all that you do. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, County Council Chair Calvin Hawkins. Please give it up for him again. As he was giving his words, he talked about the community. He talked about people in the community and what they've done. He talked about organizations such as Kappa Alpha Psi, who has been instrumental working with the Sheriff's Office in what they do as far as if we need anything and being out in the community. Thank you for your partnership and what you have done. Thank you. My next guest, or I don't know how to even explain this. This person means quite a bit to me, as he is the current sheriff of Prince George's County. He will always be known as a chief. He is somebody in this community, no matter where he goes, they know his name. He has given his life to public safety. He has worked in various organizations. He is a husband. He is a father. And he is somebody who mentors everybody who meets him. He is currently my supervisor and the sheriff who I serve and who appointed me to become a lieutenant colonel here in the sheriff's office. I have worked under 3 sheriffs, and I can honestly say that I have been privileged to work under these 3 sheriffs. And I can say, Sheriff Hyde is the person who took me over the hump in order to make sure that I was ready to move on with my career, that I am able to mentor and develop those who come behind me. That is what he has instilled not only in myself, but in every organization he's been a part of. So I have the privilege to bring up Sheriff Melvin C. Hyde.
Well, thank you, Colonel Carr. Let me first say to everyone, good evening. Good evening. Good evening. I know it's been a pretty long day, but give me a little love, right? Let me also thank our council chair for the good comments and words that he gave. I kind of, in my own way of looking at him, he preaches the gospel of good government. He's made a real difference in our community in terms of the growth of Prince George's County in a good way, positive way, so that we do have a better future. And so I'm just so proud to call him not only my council member, but my friend, Mr. Calvin Hawkins. Give him some love. Certainly I've known Delegate Jazz Lewis for a little bit of time. He is an inspiring young man that's made a difference in wherever his walk has taken him. And so right now he serves in our General Assembly, and they're doing good work, and part of it is due to his engagement and involvement there. So Delegate Lewis, thank you so much for your service. But you know, for any good thing, or maybe anything, to get done, it takes somebody to step out and lead. And so I certainly want to acknowledge our Director of Family Services. I've gotten to know her a little bit over the years, and she's very focused on making a real difference in the lives of people. You know, we can do a lot of things, but if it doesn't help people to be better, then we haven't really accomplished much. So, Valenbutler, thank you for your service. Thank you for the leadership you exhibit. Thank you for our friendship. And then, you know, in addition to the chair of the board, as I would call her, you need somebody else to do that daily stuff, that grind. And that's Jackie Braun. But not only Jackie, I've had an opportunity to visit at different sites around our county over the years, and they have good staff people doing good work that helps them as well. Let me also, you met Lieutenant Colonel John D.B. Carr. He's a good man. He's an honorable man. He's served our community well in all of the various roles we've had. We've worked hard to help groom him to be able to serve this county, this state, our nation, in a little bit different role. And so, John, I appreciate you. Thank you for your service. Now, I get the accolades and the applause, but you got to have that team, just as Family Services Director has a good team. I have a good team. I have with me tonight Sergeant Dennis. Sergeant Lockhart was here earlier. I don't know if she's still here, but she works in our domestic violence unit. We also have Corporal Wells, Deputy Maddie here with me tonight, so I'm always honored to have them in my company. But also we have a special person tonight that probably is a special person every day. And I'm so privileged to know him and to work with him, not closely, but to see him operate in our office and throughout our county. And that's Corporal Greenwich. Corporal Greenwich, the thing that I admire about him is he's a good father. He's a father right now, I think he's 1.5, and a good family man. So you can't beat that. So little applause, little love. And you know, along the way, helping do this work, they talk about the village and everybody involved. I want to throw a special shout out to the captains. As I've worked hard to try to make a difference, a real difference, a life-saving difference in domestic violence. And as they've heard me say, and others have heard me say, our goal should be to get to 0 incidents of domestic violence. And the Carr guys, those brothers have stood with me at every turn. They've had their shoulders to the wheel, and they push. They say, we will push our share of the load, and maybe a little bit of somebody else's. But they're good role models, they're good examples of the work it takes to make a difference in the lives of people, and to make communities good places to live. Now, you all know, in addition to this issue of domestic violence, and some of the craziness that happens with a lot of our young people because they didn't have a good upbringing, and they weren't put on a solid foundation, etc. And so they go out and do something wild and crazy. And so I just want to say, another good partner has been with the sheriff's office, has been our public school system. And working with them, we've been able to touch a number of young people at a very early age and make sure that they are headed in the right direction. We've taken some of the young people who have some of the most challenging issues to live with, and that affect their academic capacity. And we've been able to work with those young people and help improve them so their grade point averages increase, tardiness and absentees decrease, attendance increases, their participation as solid citizens increases. And so working with the school, we've been able to do something like that. But let me just take a few words. I wrote down a few things here. And let me first say I'm so honored to be invited to speak with you briefly this afternoon. To welcome and thank you for taking precious time to come together to better understand the issue of domestic violence and work to help alter this path of hurt on behalf of both victims and abusers of domestic violence. So we got to take both along with us to this good place. If we only take the victims, we still have all the abusers. And so we have to carry the abusers on also to a good place. So that's some of our work. But especially we have to be focused on our children. So my special thanks to all fathers. You're vital to the well-being of our society and our future as a people. And importantly, let me thank in particularly, again, the Department of Family Services for this fatherhood initiative and for hosting us this afternoon. As I said earlier, you know, for any good work to be done, someone has to step out and lead the charge. And Family Services has been that for us. I've never had an opportunity to call on them if they didn't answer the call. And they know I'm a nuisance. And I'm going to worry them, so they could just ignore the call. But they don't. But ladies and gentlemen, as much of my work and efforts are designed to help our men and boys be their best, I'm particularly pleased to sign the pledge, and I think I got a card right there, to sign the pledge and stand with our fathers as we work to break the cycle of harm and hurt to our families. If I could leave you with any one thing tonight, out of everything I say or you hear here tonight, we need absolute strong families. We need strong families. We've got to overcome the tear in the fabric of the family. Our hosts know, as do I, that all of you can, and I believe must, take the lead and begin to make a very measurable difference in the lives of the people of our community. And since our focus this afternoon is on fathers, because I see the reports, I know that too many of our fathers have experienced domestic violence as a victim or abuser. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very deep and insidious issue. You know the statistics as well as I. So for the sake of time, I won't recite them now. I'll just say we're at crisis point. But with your engagement, you can help us get to my goal, our goal of zero incidents. I urge you to take on this challenge. Please stand strong as a father. Our families need us now more than ever. Thank you for being here this evening. It is time well spent. As you see on all these placards around here, we've signed our names. That's like taking an oath, and an oath matters. So take the pledge, honor it. Together we can overcome domestic violence. Enjoy the evening. Have a happy Father's Day. Thank you.
As always, serve high, drops, as they call dimes or pieces of wisdom, in which we can live by and we can grow. So as we move forward, we're going to talk about our community and what some of the, many of our, speakers have actually talked about as far as the various levels and how we interact with our community and who actually is able to affect change. This next person I'm getting ready to bring up is what they call fairly young, but I've known him for many years. I've seen him get married, have kids. I've seen him work at the grassroots level as far as engaging our citizens, our community. He is very adamant and discusses about the social issues like domestic violence. He currently is in our General Assembly, and he's a delegate here in Prince George's County. I want to bring up Delegate James Doula.
Good evening, family. Good evening. I hope it's okay for me to say family with all of you. I think mostly everyone I see here seems like you're all from Prince George's County, so I'm going to call you family if that's okay. To the corporal right here, I got a 1.5-year-old at home, so I know your pleasure and your pain. I hope you're sleeping. Mine is currently regressing, so I don't know too much about that sleep, but it is a joy of mine to see her here with your family. County Executive Alsabrooks, Sheriff High, Council Chair Hawkins, my brother, Director Butler, and I'm going to call it our soon-to-be next sheriff, Lieutenant Colonel John Carr, and my sister from another, Jackie Roan. You know I love you. Thank you all for the work that you do in helping to put this together today. I'm really happy to be here for this Father's Day pledge. I think this is, as the sheriff said, we're at a crisis point in our community, and it's time for us to speak loudly and boldly about what is important to us. Just a quick little bit about me, like the sheriff, my family originally hails from Southern Virginia. I was born and raised here. My father came from the Portsmouth Tidewater area. He was expelled from his high school after he broke up a race riot during desegregation and then decided to serve in our military on the Berlin Wall. So many times over the course of my life, I thought to myself, why would this man who grew up fighting racist institutions then go on to serve that nation that put him under those circumstances? But I learned a lot from him. Fathers make a difference. My father passed away at the very beginning of the pandemic. And then like a month later, my wife let me know that we were expecting a baby boy. So yes, a pandemic baby. I've thought a lot as I talked to Jackie and others about the world my father had, the world I grew up and raised in, and Calvin shared a little bit about my story growing up and how I could have went a different way, if not for the grace of God. And the type of world my son's going to inherit, which would be made worse if I wasn't here for him. So I think it is important for us to talk about fathers and how pivotal they are in the lives of their families, not just the children, but in the community. I think we're in a moment where big change is possible right now, and we see it every day. The work that we do in the Maryland General Assembly, we try to tackle healthcare. Me and my colleagues have helped to pass bills to make telehealth more available, to subsidize physical health care as well as mental health care going to our high-needs communities. We've been trying to tackle this scourge of gun violence, but we also need to do more as it relates to stopping domestic violence. I think about when I was brand new in the legislature and Corporal Mujahid, I believe his name is, Rasmussen, passed away responding to a neighbor's domestic violence incident. I think many of you remember the story. There was a call that came in. He went to the neighbor's house and then was shot by the abuser. The sheriff didn't say the specific stats, but unfortunately, we lead the state in domestic violence-related murders. And I don't think that has changed. And that's just what's recorded, what reported. And I think during the pandemic, we know that reporting went down because you don't see a lot of the mandated reporting that happens in our schools. So we have a lot more work to do. I think fathers are critical. I love this pledge. I didn't know we had these placards, but it's a phenomenal idea. I'm going to take this idea of the placards and challenge all my colleagues in the General Assembly to pledge to this as well. I just want to leave you all that we need to talk more with venues like this. We need to educate more. But I think, like the sheriff said, we need to love more too. Many of these folks who are abusing are coming from households in which they were abused. So we need to get to the root causes of what's going on to stop the violence. So I just want to thank you all for having me. It is my pleasure to be here. Jackie calls me regularly, and whenever I can be helpful, I show up. So thank you, y'all. Have a blessed evening, and thanks for having me.
Thank you, Delegate, and thank you for all the work that you do outside and in the community, and not only up in Annapolis as well. So as we move forward, I want to bring somebody up next who, one from an educational level and also from a grassroots level, is out and about doing the job consistently to make sure that, one, the community is safe, but two, he's a man who is not about conversation and talk. He's a man about action. He's a man who is an advocate in reference to domestic violence, but also is somebody who has written a book that is internationally acclaimed, Dare to be a King. What if the Prince lives? It is a survival workbook of African-American males that is thought-provoking. So he is making sure that not only out and about in his communication with the public, he's also writing about that information, making sure that they understand exactly what is needed and giving the stories that we see each and every day. So with that being said, I definitely want to make sure I bring up Mr. soon-to-be Dr. David Bowie.
So, ladies and gentlemen, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
And so first, I would like to acknowledge the Prince George's County Department of Family Services. Can we give them a round of applause?
want to also acknowledge the Prince George's County Office of the Sheriff. Last but not least, the Prince George's County Commission on Fathers, Men, and Boys. And so, ladies and gentlemen, again, my name is David Miller. I hail from the great city of Baltimore, Maryland. Currently live in Washington, D.C. I am going to share a few remarks, and I specifically want to talk to many who are streaming in. I specifically want to talk to the dads. But let me just say initially that my heart is very heavy today. So please pray for me that I can get through this conversation that we can have today. On the way over, I found out one of my childhood friends, one of my good friends, was shot and killed in Baltimore. And so, ladies and gentlemen, to say that the village is on fire is an understatement. And it's going to take the iconic leadership in this room. I often start off by saying to people, no one is coming to save us. We are the leaders that our ancestors prayed for. And so in order for us to holistically address two of the major issues that we are gathered here to discuss today, which is domestic violence and human trafficking, it's going to take us moving out of our silos. It's going to take us communicating. It's going to take us a more concerted effort for us to be willing to do the work and for us to reach those in our community. Oftentimes, I find that many of us don't necessarily realize the trauma and the pain that is in our community. As a 19-year-old freshman at Morgan State University in Baltimore, my best friend was at Morehouse in Atlanta, Georgia. He came home during summer vacation. He was shot and killed standing next to me. I wasn't a dope dealer. I wasn't a gang member. I was a young black male in college. I went to church every Sunday. And I share that with people because, ladies and gentlemen, the village is on fire. And it is time for us to lock arms in solidarity to do the work. And whenever we come together, we must always uplift the men and women in our community who are struggling. And so I want to specifically talk to dads who may be listening, dads in our own families, because although many of us are doing well, raise your hand if you got some folk in your family that are really struggling. I can raise both hands, I can lift both my feet. And so oftentimes when we talk about many of the protracted challenges like domestic violence and human trafficking, we don't necessarily have to look at the larger community. We can look within our own family lineage. And so there are really like three things that I really want fathers to zero in on, particularly when we talk about addressing domestic violence and human trafficking. I briefly talked about the trauma and the insidious nature of trauma and the generational impact that trauma has. The second thing that I want to share with you is that we have to begin to re-socialize boys and redefine what it means to be a man. So deeper conversations around manhood and masculinity. When I was growing up, ladies and gentlemen, I was telling Mr. Carr here, despite my youthful appearance, I know y'all probably think I'm only 30 years old. When I grew up, there was even a code of ethics among gangsters and dope dealers. You didn't mess with women. You didn't mess with the elderly. And you didn't mess with children. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I would submit that today there is no longer a code of the streets. And we have to begin to redefine what it means to be sober, responsible, and spiritually guided, and men who are caring for their families. Because when I look at the news and I look at the kinds of crimes that are being committed across this country, in Prince George's County, in D.C., in Baltimore, and across this nation, I am appalled at the increased levels of homicide, particularly among Black and brown women in our community. So it speaks to a larger issue, and it's time for us to act. One of the things that I think is also really critically important is that as men, we have to be willing to reach out to other men. One of the things to all of the men here and the men that are listening live on the stream is that one of the things that I would suggest to you as an action step, begin to reach out to 5 to 10 men in your network and encourage those men, because you never know what a man is going through. About 7 years ago, a good family friend, a young man that I went to school with, he worked for the federal government. He was a very well-known martial artist in Baltimore. He got in his car, he drove out to a place called Liberty Dam, which is outside of Baltimore, and he jumped in the water and committed suicide. And ladies and gentlemen, these are some of the kinds of things that we are seeing and hearing that are happening to men, that are happening to fathers. And so just you picking up the phone, reaching out to another dad, just you sending a text message or whatever your prescribed mode of communication is, could literally save a life. And we have to begin to breathe life into the hearts and minds of our men, because even the men in this room, I would submit that if I asked all of the ladies and the children to leave, if we would have had a deeper conversation with the men in this room, although we dress up well and we drive nice cars, many of us are still fundamentally broken because we didn't get that kind of nurturing and lap time from our dads and village dads in our community. Even though we dress up well, many of the men in this room, I would submit, are broken, and we struggle. So you never know the impact that a call or a text to another man in your circle or outside of your circle can actually breathe life into another father. And so, again, as an action step, because I think we need to move beyond talking. I think we personally talk too much. We need to move toward action. Identify 5 to 10 men in your network that you can reach out to. Another critical area that I find that is not necessarily talked about that I do think is related to domestic violence, human trafficking, and many of the challenges that we see in our community is we got to have a deeper conversation about men's health, both physical health and mental health. I just buried my brother. My brother was 55 years old. He died March of 2021 from cancer, and we didn't know about it. And so to the gentlemen in this room, we can't be good husbands, we can't be good fathers if we don't go to the doctor. And I'm going to say that again, because again, if I was to ask all of the women and the children to leave, and we had a checkup from the neck up, there are probably men in this space, prominent men in this space, who haven't been to the doctor in 5 to 10 years. And so this focus on both our physical health and our mental health, therapy saved my life. I have my therapist on speed dial. And the reason why my therapist and I have such a good relationship is because I struggled, like many of us, I struggled with things that I shouldn't have seen when I was 16, 17, 18, 19 years of age. And through the help of my parents, even though after my friend was killed, I dropped out of school, I was fortunate enough to go back to school, but it was through therapy and it was through my relationship with men. So to the men that are listening live, to the men in this room, again, oftentimes when we're in relationships, we lash out because we're not whole physically and mentally, and so we lash out and we inflict harm to our loved ones. And so this issue of men's health is critically important. The second thing, which I think, or the third thing that I want to talk about really quickly that we don't often talk about is money, right? When we think about the economic implications of relationships and maintaining healthy relationships, it's important as a county, as a society, that we do more work around financial literacy, particularly with men. And so one of the things that I always share with fathers is we got to get our financial house in order, right? I've been to too many funerals where the funeral was paid for through a GoFundMe account. And I'm going to say that again. All of us in this room who are on social media have seen the images and the content. Someone passed away, a GoFundMe account had to be created to bury someone. This issue around financial literacy and making sure that our financial homes are in order are also things that can help strengthen relationships. Do you have life insurance? These are the deeper conversations, men, particularly black men, that we don't necessarily want to talk about. Is your family covered in the event that you pass away at 40? I have friends who passed away at 35 from heart attacks and strokes, and the family wasn't covered. And so those are just a couple of things that I wanted to share with you. And once again, Ms. Rome and to the leadership in the county, I'm actually blown away by your pledge. I think it's a step in the right direction. I'm a father of 2 daughters, and so this issue around domestic violence and bullying and physical assault is something that I think that we need to take more seriously. And one of the things that I want to just say in closing Y'all, it's up to us. We gotta put the time in, we gotta do the work, we gotta lock arms, we gotta really connect the dots because the village is on fire. And so I want to thank you for allowing me to share a few words. I also want to thank, it's always difficult to go after so many dynamic speakers like Mr. Calvin in the back and Sheriff High. And so once again, I just want to thank you for allowing me just to share a few words with you. Thank you.
Please, let's give him another round of applause. So we're getting ready to move to the portion in which we are going to be passing out awards and we're going to be moving forward. But Mr. Miller brought up a very good point as far as action items and what we see in the community. So now I'm going to put my Lieutenant Colonel hat on and really talk about some of the stuff that during this COVID-19 pandemic, what we've actually seen. We've seen numbers where we had 2,000 pieces of protective orders issued in a month. Not a year, that's a month. A month. And that is because victims were trapped in their home with their abusers. That is because people were going through stress. People didn't know where they were going to get their next check from, or they were frustrated because they lost a loved one because that person was sick and they didn't know how to deal with it. So as we talk about our players, we talk about actually being able to interact with each other, actually being able to talk about our issues and our problems. Our numbers when it came to mental health, in which the Office of the Sheriff serves emergency petition orders, we were averaging 130 emergency petition orders a month. That is when a loved one goes to the courts and asks for relief because somebody is either a danger to themselves or others. That is when you deal with somebody who may be suicidal, who may be schizophrenic, who may be dealing with a mental health issue. It is the fact that we don't talk about these issues and we keep it amongst ourselves. A lot of homes and a lot of upbringings, when we go through things, what do we say? What goes on in my house stays in my house. This pledge here means that you are willing to talk about these issues and you are able to be a part of a solution to make sure that we do not suffer in silence. So again, we want to definitely make sure that we thank our family services, and we want to thank people like Sheriff High and our nonprofit organizations and everybody here, our public officials, because without you, we will be unable to get anything done. And we know that it takes a village to raise the children and our kids. So next, I want to make sure, I definitely want to bring, before we wind up doing just the awards, there is somebody who I would be remiss in not bringing up, and that's going to be Mr. Elio Wade. If you could come on up and give us your few words.
All right, thank you everyone for, ladies and gentlemen, for coming out and joining us this evening. And we're at the part of the program where we're going to give special thanks to the pledge board sponsors, everyone who took a pledge board and took it back to their organization and had them sign. Our goal was to get 1,000 signatures. At this point right now, we are at 1,500 and still counting. We probably won't know our totals till probably the end of the week or sometime next week, but I'm happy with the 1,500 right now. So, beginning with the Prince George's County Office of the Sheriff, Jacob's Ladder Foundation, Concerned Black Men in Prince George's County, Maryland's Crime Victims Resource Center, Inc., 100 Fathers, Inc., Kappa Alpha Phi Fraternity, Home Team Reality Group, Royalty Hair Salon, Smith's Barbershop, Thomas Elementary School Community Day, Prince George's County College Wellness Center, Maryland National Capital Parks and Planning Commission, St. Stephen's Baptist Church, Mercy, Cottage City Municipality, Comar Manor Municipality, Nonprofit, Prince George's County, Morehouse College, Alumni Association, DMV Chapter,
Alpha Fraternity 8 Cal Chapter, Town of Bladensburg, Maryland National Capital Park Police, EMWade Memorial AME Church, Prince George's County Family Justice Service Center, Department of Family Services, Mu Alpha Mu Christian Sorority, Crystal's Salon Spa, My Brother's Keeper, Prince George's County Network, Food for Thought, Prince George's County Department of Social Services, Prince George's County Health Department, the Community Baptist Church, Bridges to Success. These are all organizations that joined us this year in our pledge of getting folks to come out and sign a pledge for it. Thank you all, and hope to see you again next year when we do it again. So like I said before, we're getting ready to get into the portion where we're getting ready to highlight and actually present awards for those members here in the community that have been a part. So if I could, can I get Sheriff Hyde to come up, and he will be announcing the Public Safety Award.
Well, while we're waiting for him to come up and bring us the information on the awards, I just wanted to also say I was remiss. I didn't recognize Dr. James Doula. Dr. Doula. Dr. Doula and I have known each other for probably 2 decades ago. He's a good man. Thank you, man. All right, I'm going to give this first award to my guy, Corporal Arthur Greenwich. Come on up, brother. Get a picture here.
All eyes right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, all that close. Take a couple more. You guys want to come in? No, right there. We go 1, 3, 1, 2, 3. Eyes right here. Eyes right here.
This young brother looks real sharp in his uniform here. He puts me to shame, Mike. Not only did I not have my dress blouse on, but I'm getting a little punch too, you know. But I know him, he won't tell anybody about it, and there are no pictures of what we shot.
Thank you, Sheriff. We appreciate that. Next presenter for the next award is somebody that the Sheriff just gave a shout out to. It's going to be Dr. James Doula, who has been very instrumental in the community, especially on the southern end of the county, in which he was the president of the South Democratic Club, and he is a retired United States Air Force. Okay, all right, yeah. Let's get it up. Come on, man. You gotta get my public service. So, Dr. Doula, if you could come on up, and you will be presenting the Veterans Fatherhood Award.
Well, good evening.
Good evening.
Let me say this about veterans. You know, oftentimes we thank veterans for their service. And as we thank veterans for their service, sometimes we don't realize what they've gone through. You know, we have a lot of veterans who have served from Korea days, from Korea to Vietnam, Desert Storm, Iraq, Afghanistan. And each time many of them left home, they left their families behind. And then when they came back home, they had to pick up the pieces to become fathers again. And I know that for a fact, because I served 30 years. And the person that I'm going to call up is a person that I talk to quite often, because I know him to be as we say, a straight up man who loves his family, who loves God, and always does the right thing every day. And I know that he is a great father and a great family man. And I know his son just graduated from basic training in the Army, am I correct? In the Army, following in the dad's footsteps, who was a Marine. Hoorah! So at this time, it's my pleasure to present the Veterans Fatherhood Award to Mr. Andy Randy Athouse.
Thank you.
Thank you. So next, as we move forward, I want to bring up the Commission Chair, Mr. Robert Johnson, and also the Commission Vice Chair, Mr. Bruce Edwards, for the next announcement of the Fatherhood Award.
Good evening, good evening. Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here on behalf of the Commission on Fathers, Men, and Boys. This is a stellar evening. This is something we often look forward to, but often that we also look past. Every day is Father's Day. Every day we have an opportunity and the joy and the mission to be involved. A lot of men can be present, but they fail to be involved. Your ability to be able to speak to your children, to engage them, to ask them how they're doing, to eat dinner with them, to check their homework, just to be engaged. It should not be taken for granted. Look at it with a spirit of gratitude. To be a father is indeed a privilege, not just on Father's Day. Every day is Father's Day. And we stand in this position as commissioners to be able to work collectively with our other resources throughout the community, to be able to touch the spiritual needs, the educational needs, the financial needs of fathers 365, to be able to be the change that we wish to exude in this community. I have the pleasure of being able to teach every night, Monday through Thursday, in the Dorsey Run Correctional Facility. A lot of men look just like me, and 90% of them are fathers. And they're trying to figure out how can they father from afar. What can I do to basically continue to be involved, to be able to be engaged in that phone call, and wishing that they had an opportunity to be able to engage with their children outside of the wall. And so, you take that in and you realize just the spirit and ability to be a father is something that can never be undermined. If you really want to know how well the community is doing, you have to recognize how engaged the men are within that community. So as fathers, let's continue to hold one another accountable in love and also in peace and harmony. And again, every day is Father's Day and it should not be taken lightly. I will pass it over to our chair, Commissioner Robert Johnson. Thank you, Commissioner.
Deliver the short speech. So I'm Commissioner Robert Johnson. I'm the chair of the Commission for Fathers, Men, and Boys, and Mike Williams is also one of our commissioners as well. We were founded in 2019 in Prince George's County to help advise County Executive Angela also Brooks on issues and challenges within the community for fathers, men, and boys. Right. So as we all talk today, we recognize the strength and the power and the influence that dads have in their families, right, and also within the community. Right now, our community, it is in crisis. We need to move and lead from the front. We need to take ownership of the crisis in our community, right, as dads, as fathers, as leaders, right, and not only advise, but to take action. And what I want to do as the chair of this commission is to form a coalition of nonprofits, of business leaders, of fraternal organizations, with the police department, our civic organizations, to work together with the county executive and the county council to end this pandemic, right? This is not the pandemic is a health pandemic, the last 2 years, but it has been a 400 pandemic crisis in our community. So we need leaders and organizations like 100 Fathers Inc. with Frank Malone. We need leaders and like organizations with Cap Al-Assad. We need leaders like Ron Harris with Concerned Black Men. We need leaders like BJ Page with Bow Ties, Voice of Bow Ties, right? So we are going to bring together a coalition of fathers, families, and organizations to help change the trajectory in Prince George's County and say this is a great place to live, but it's also a place where fathers and dads are engaged and involved. Let's change the narrative and own it and take action, right? So today, what I would love to do is to have the individuals that we're going to present our awards to, if their families can come up with them, right? We want that family photo. We talk about fathers and families. And if I want the individual that actually nominated the father to come up, and if they have words to say, to be able to do that. So our first awardee is Mr. Damian Durham. Damian was nominated by his wife, Elena Valenbutler.
I just want to say, my husband is a great father, not only to our boys, but to other boys in the community. Ever since he became a dad, that was his mission, and he's done it so well. He's taking on responsibilities for his kids, his nephews, just so many kids, and he pours his heart out all the time. He never fails. Anytime they need him, he'll pick up the phone, he'll go to them. And so I just wanted to nominate him for this award because he deserves it. And I don't really have much more to say.
I just want to say, like my man was saying earlier, not all of us have fathers coming up. So I just want to speak to any guys out there, you don't have a father, you don't have a father figure. Keep pushing, man. Stay focused, stay positive. You never know where you end up. Like I said, I didn't have a father figure growing up. Thank God my mother was determined to make sure that I was able to see two different sides of the street. And that's what I did. I want to make sure I pass that on to kids, even young adults. I got a couple of guys in their young 20s. Thank God they're not fathers yet, but I'm trying to make sure that when that time happens, that they're ready for it. So I just want to encourage any brothers that need an encouraging word, and especially the young guys. Like I say, fellas, it might look a little rough. Trust me, I know. Stay faithful. Keep looking to God. It'll work out. Come up in front of the podium. All right. Commissioner, this side. Right, just move where you are. Just 3 steps in front of the podium. So everyone come up. There you go. There you go. All right. Commissioner, y'all understand? Okay, good. All right, we're solid. All eyes right here on 3. 1, 2, and 3. Pull that pose with 7. Good. Pull that pose right here. Up to the camera, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, good evening, everyone. This next awardee was nominated by none other than BJ Page, Mr. Gino Grant. You and family, come on up.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is BJ Page. I am excited to be up here. I nominated this brother for a lot of reasons, but before I get started, a quick thank you to Madam County Executive, Department of Family Services Director Butler, Jackie Brown, who my wife adores, Brother EMWade, Calvin Hawkins, James Doula, Sheriff Hyde, next Sheriff Carr, Dr. Doula Hawkins, Commissioner of Fathers, Men and Boys, and all the awardees. It's the reason I said all that, because sometimes we overlook those who are before us that allow us to be in places like this. So every chance I get, I won't forget. Gino LeGrand is a husband, father to 4 beautiful children, and all-around great man. Gino is an Air Force veteran and founder of Right Now Academy, a Prince George's County nonprofit that helps young men become successful grown men through education and knowledge of self. He is a mentor to countless amounts of youth inside the Beltway with plenty military experience and civilian awards. My favorite accomplishment is prior to being married to his wonderful, beautiful wife, L'Oreal, and the birth of their baby girl. Gino raised these young men as a single father, and I watched him grow his family to where they are today. He's always taught them, yeah, stop it up. He's always taught them and all of their friends the importance of being a stand-up man and to always do the right thing for the community that you live in. Gino has shown how to do this by being a leader in the space of knowing your history and teaching those around you the importance of self-love. If you know me about anything with boys with bow ties, let's be clear. There's no boys with bow ties without Gino LeGrand. So I'm excited to nominate and even more excited to see that my brother has been elected as one of the fathers of the year. Clap it up for Mr. Gino LeGrand.
So I'm not much for speeches unless we're talking about African American history. As BJ said, I have my family here, my wife, my 3 sons, my daughter, and I also have my mother up here, which her up here from St. Louis. She's here for good now. So she's staying in my house. Now she gotta live by my rules. Take that. She gonna eat what I cook. If she don't, she's going to her room. But I'm very honored to receive this. This means a lot to me, just because of the title of the award. Myself and BJ have put in a lot of work working in the community. And we don't do it for awards. I do it because I love these kids. And I want to see them far succeed us. And our history is very important in doing that. I know they don't teach these things in school anymore. That's why it's important for us to teach them. With Right Now Academy, we teach a lot of things they don't teach in school. The most important, African American history, which is in turn American history. We teach home economics, life skills, agriculture. These things are very important to have as tools, especially as growing up as young men and young women. And I just want to say thank you for this award.
Time to fly out. Yep. Come on, fellas. Yep. Good. That's your lane right here. That's your lane right here. That's your lane. Boom. Perfect. Here we go. 1, 3. All eyes right here. 1, 3, 1, 2, and 3. Good. Hold that pose. Wonderful. And several more. Right here. Exactly.
Our next awardee, Mr. Dwayne Preston, is the Deputy Chief for the City of Bowie Police Department. I met Deputy Chief Preston 2 years ago, and we talked about putting together a Father's Day event at Allen Pond. If you spend more than 5 to 10 minutes in conversation with Deputy Chief Preston, you're going to hear conversations about his son, his daughter, his wife, and his faith. right? That's him in a nutshell, right? He's an honest person, a man of integrity, and then in speaking with some of the individuals on that police department, because I'm part of the Citizens Police Academy now, right? I realize the admiration that they have for him, and then the things that he's done to transform that police department in the city of Bowie. Deputy Police Chief Preston, again, is a man of integrity. He's a man that not only mentors his police department, the men in his police department, but he truly cares about the community by his actions. So I want to bring up Deputy Chief Police. I know you're not sure.
First and foremost, I want to thank Mr. Johnson, Commissioner of Fathers Men and Boys, for bestowing this award on me. Thank our county executive, Sheriff Hyde. I have a couple of also Sheriff Hyde momentarily, because he's someone who's had a great influence on me. But I go back to the beginning, and that I was a benefactor of having a good father. And my father wasn't one that spoke a lot, but he led by example. And what he established before me was a man of integrity that showed how to work hard and a good work ethic. June 29th of this year will mark 1 year since he passed. And, it's one of the things that, but my father wasn't the only one who was instrumental. I grew up in a family, played sports. I played football, played basketball, ran track. And I was fortunate enough to be coached by my uncle and all three. But it was a village that raised us all. All of my cousins and my family and friends were raised by the parents, and the rules were the same. And so one thing I would say to all of the honorees and all the fathers that are watching here is that none of us as fathers need to be perfect, but we do need to be present. And I think that that's one thing that we all have to be present. Nobody expects us to be perfect, but we do have to be present, okay? I'd be remiss if I don't acknowledge my wife, married on my son. And this is a partnership, so, being a father is a duty. It's not something that I look at as a labor, it's a duty and a responsibility to my children and to everyone to be an example. And so, whatever it is in my professional life, in my personal life, in my, as a man of God, wherever I am, it's my duty to make sure that I'm a person of character and I represent everyone there. I want to talk about Sheriff Hyde. As I mentioned, I've been doing law enforcement for 32 years now. And I had the distinct pleasure of working with Sheriff Hyde, or for Sheriff Hyde, when he was with Prince George's County Police Department. And two quick stories, I don't want to be too long, but I can talk about Sheriff Hyde a long time. I call him Chief, so it took me a minute to start calling him Sheriff. And one of the first things, I was a young captain, was getting ready to get promoted to major, which is an appointed position. And he was transferring me to a unit, which I didn't really understand why. And what I met with him, all he told me is, do a quick study, I promoted you for a reason, go figure it out. That was the only instruction I had, but it was one of the things that pushed me into a direction to really help and develop me. I think Lieutenant Colonel Carr mentioned it earlier, that it's like the little bird in the nest, and it pushes you out of the nest and you have to figure out how to fly. But he's taught a lot of us how to fly, so I really appreciate that. There are a lot of leaders here in law enforcement in Prince George's County that benefited from your leadership and will continue to do so. I appreciate you 100%. Okay. But I don't want to be too windy. I know we got other awardees, and I know people have other places to go. I do want to mention Jackie. I work with Jackie quite a bit. She's a member of our Public Safety Committee in the city of Bowie, and many others. So I just, again, appreciate and thank everyone for the honor. My wife is coming. I'll make a shameless plug. Come out this Father's Day on June 19th. Join us in the city of Bowie for the Juneteenth celebration we're having. All right, we're partnering with the Commission of Father Events and Board.
Stay in front of the podium.
There you go, come on up, brother.
You want first? Yes, sir.
Our final awardee is a gentleman nominated by his wife, lovely wife, who I've had also had the pleasure to know for quite some time. Gentlemen, I want his wife to come up and give some words for Mr. Jerome Jones. Pardon me, she was Jerome Charles Jones.
I was so honored when asked about whether or not I would endorse the nomination of my husband for this award. My husband was raised without a father, and he had no blueprint for how to do this, but he is shining beyond measure. We are a busy family. Sorry. We are a busy family, but he is a girl dad and a boy dad. There's but so many places we can both meet at once. So you can see my husband at Girl Scout meetings, the same way you can see him on the basketball court or at Little League meets with our children. But most importantly, you will catch him in the house of God. I married a godly man. That was his gift to me, giving him to us. I most recently had a stroke. I am a young woman. I just rounded the corner of 40. Most recently had a stroke. Then I was diagnosed with a brain tumor. My husband married me for sickness and health, richer or poorer. On Wednesday, June 15th, we will celebrate 14 years together. Throughout this journey, he has been with me when the sun shines and also when the sky turns gray. He has never forfeited his promise of holding my hand through it all. He mimics mentorship through his philanthropy, through his giving. He is a coach. He is a mentor. He is a role model. He is a man of ministry. He's a man of ministry. He is what we need that many people do not speak about, but they are present. He is my 1 in a million. There are many millions out there. And I think often the conversation forfeits how many of them there are. But today, we salute all of those, but most importantly, we salute our king, Mr. Jerome Jones.
I want to first thank the man upstairs. Without him, I wouldn't be in this position, so I just pray to God that He see fit to have me in this position to take care of this beautiful family that I have. I want to thank my wife for nominating me, and the commission, the Father Men and Boys for seeing fit and giving me this award. And I take it I don't take it lightly at all, being in the position of a dad, a husband, a man, a leader, and I just try my best to be the best example that I can be whenever I'm in the presence of the youth. So I just want to leave it there. Thank you.
That was his rough.
Yeah. Yes. Here we go. There you go. So we go on through 1, 2, and 3. Hold that pose right here. Thank you.
Can we give another round of applause just for So as we get ready to wrap up the night, I just want to say one thing that I was able to take away from this. As we get ready for this pledge and to make sure as a fathers, we're stepping up to eradicate domestic violence and to address and deal with sex trafficking. I want to make sure that we know every man in this room, whether you have a child with you or not, you can be a mentor. You can be a father for somebody. And one thing I was very proud of is for everybody to come up here, I saw family. And that's what this community is about. It's about family. So I want to again say thank you and appreciate everything you do in the community and what you do for each and every child that you may come across, whether that is your own child or whether that is somebody else. As they said before, I have 4 kids, and I cannot be with them each and every day, but I am proud to know that there are men in this community that will be able to make sure that they are okay. So I appreciate you, I thank you, and congratulations to everybody who received the award tonight. I want to bring up again the director, Miss Elena Valenbutler, as she gives us some remarks, and we appreciate her office for what they do, along with Jackie Brown as well. If you could, director, if you could please come up and give us some words, we appreciate you.
Deeply moved by a number of things that have been said, but I did not want the program to end without taking a couple minutes, and I promised to be brief. But there are 3 things I wanted to say. So one, and they're in no particular order. So number 1, I want to take a moment to just acknowledge Jackie and her staff. I want to point out specifically Jackie's staff names. I'd like to Natasha, Addie, Chantel, and Elio, please. Take a moment to recognize Jackie's staff because you all know, I've said and heard Jackie's name repeatedly, you know the person who is in front of this group, you know the person who's always in our community, but she's got these 4 individuals who are always there, and they have her back, and I didn't want the night to end without acknowledging you all. So we want you to know we appreciate you. The second thing that I wanted to just very quickly say is I did not want the night to end without acknowledging my friend, a mentor, someone who I have had the pleasure of getting to know since I've been with the Department of Family Services, and that is our sheriff, Norman High. He has taught me a great deal in the 6 years I've had the opportunity to be the director, and we are not losing you because this is not goodbye, but this is definitely so long, and we want you to know how much we definitely appreciate your partnership, Sheriff. Thank you. The very last thing I wanted to say was I wanted to acknowledge a comment made by our keynote speaker, Mr. Miller, and I wanted to acknowledge it because he indicated that it's important that we take a moment to send a text, to pick up the phone, to check on someone. And I think he said to check on your brother, to check on another man, but I wanted to just say it's important that we do that for all of us, for the men, for the women, for all of us. It happens, and we just don't know the difference that it makes when you get a text from someone. So thank you, Mr. Miller. Thank you. PIO, who I also work for alongside Jackie Rome, has asked me if I would please bring up all of the awardees for a group photo. I believe that there is one other gentleman who would like to make some closing remarks, but after that, Juani would like, after Sergeant Dennis makes closing remarks, if we could please bring up all the awardees for a group photo. Thank you all.
I will now give it over to Sergeant Dennis as he makes his closing remarks for tonight.
As I stand here and look around the room, I say, wow. I say, wow, because you're in a room in the presence of so many good people, so many good examples, so many people that are out there doing the things the right way. If they have their loved ones, their family, their friends, reach out and say, I would like to nominate this person because I appreciate what they do and what they're doing. It's a lot. And I say that because we go through our day. We have good days, we have bad days. We have our ups and we have our downs. And we don't realize what we do, how it impacts others. When you look around this room, you see people that their co-workers, their friends, their family members said, out of all the people that they know, I will pick that person and nominate them for this award. You should be proud. You don't know what you did, you don't know when you did it, but somewhere in your day, you did the right thing. You set an example that other people realize and appreciate. So again, I say wow, because it's humbling. We all think of ourselves as a good person, but we all do not go out and walk it all the time. My father told me a long time ago, people will hear what you say, but they will always watch what you do. So I am very proud of all the recipients, but I'm also proud of the people that nominated those individuals because that meant that you paid attention. You took notice of what these people did. As we come to a close, I just really want to point out and ask everyone to look around this room. Not just at the people, but I want you to look around the room at all of the pledge awards. And I want you to think for a second. Those of you that signed the pledge award, when somebody walked up to you with this pledge award and said, here, sign this. Your response was, well, what is this I'm signing? Somebody had to take the time to explain to you what it is and what it's for. As Mr. EMWade said earlier, over 1,500 signatures. That's 1,500 opportunities that somebody had a chance to explain what the Father's Day pledge was. That's a lot, because you get that many signatures means you touch that many people. That many people are explained to what this is and why this is. So I know it's been said multiple times, but again, I just want to say thank you to the Department of Family Services for allowing us to be their partner again. I want to say thank you to all the recipients for leading by example in our communities. And as the author stated, we are in crisis. We need these examples out there. We need people to look up to. We need other brothers to lead. We need brothers to talk to one another, to check on one another, to continue to build upon this. One person at a time. I like to say thank you to those people on the planning committee. Heard her name multiple times tonight, but Jackie Rome. I appreciate you and all that you do. I will tell everybody that was on the planning committee that Jackie Rome was Gladys Knight and everybody else was just the pips, the background singers.
Mr. EMWade, Deputy Squan Wells, Corporal Meddy, Captain Ferris, everybody that allowed us to get all this stuff together. It was a lot of work, you know, from just making changes, to getting the flyers, to getting the location, to getting the IT, trying to get everything set up. But she led the ship. She made sure we got to the finish line. So I appreciate it. And thank you. As we come to a close, I'm going to share a quick, short story. I say it quick, because I'm not good at long stories. If anybody knows the starfish story, it goes like this. There was an older man walking along the beach. And off in the distance, he saw a young man picking up stuff, throwing it back into the ocean. He was curious. So he walked a little closer, trying to figure out what was going on. And the young man just kept bending over, picking stuff up, throwing it back into the sea. As he got closer, he said, "Young man, what are you doing out there?" The young man said, "I'm throwing starfish back into the ocean." And the old man looked in front of him to see miles of beach flooded with starfish. He turned around and looked behind him and saw a lot of starfish. I said, "Young man, there's miles and miles of beach. You're not going to make any difference." The young man looked at him, nodded his head politely. He bent over, he picked up another starfish, held it up for the man to see, and then tossed it back into the ocean. And he said with a smile on his face, "It made a difference to that." I say that to say, when you're out there, you never know who you're going to make a difference to. In your day, you come to contact with 50 to 100 people per day. By doing the things the right way, by mentoring, by leading by example, you can make a difference to that. So I ask you all to continue to do the right thing and to honor the pledge that you all made. The pledge says, "I promise to maintain relationships that are based on respect, equality, trust, communication, and honesty. I pledge to never engage in any type of abuse, physical, emotional, sexual, financial, or digital. Together, we can end domestic violence." Thank you.
That will conclude our program for tonight. But before you go, if you have not done it, we would love for you to go ahead and sign our pledge board, basically showing your dedication to eradicating domestic violence. And we also have life refreshments in the back. Thank you for your attendance and thank you for coming out. Thank you.